Hey everybody, Reid Schlegel here, and today I'll be sketching with Strathmore's tan tone paper, and I'll be showing you how to illustrate a sword that I purchased recently from Cedar Lore and Sun and Stars Forge that has molded leather, mild steel, and Damascus steel. So this is what we're going to be doing. I did the base sketch before I started today, but before I do anything I always put down a burner page because the marker will inevitably bleed through and you don't want to ruin the next sheet. So when I start any sketch, I always think about what is my first layer going to be. And for this one, I really want to make sure I set myself up to make something beautiful to show all these beautiful textures in the steel, and then the ribbed leather texture, and then all of those nice little dimples and imperfections in the pommel and the guard. So today we're going to be going over how to do these three materials with this object as a reference. But when we start every sketch, I try and think about what my first lines are that I put down. For this one, I'm going for my longest lines first, and I'm using a ruler just to make sure it's super clean. Something I wouldn't do necessarily at work, but we have some extra time today, so we're going to go and make it super clean. And we're using a nice thin gray pen today, so that way we can actually have it blend in with the steel later. And you can see we use some ship curves, and now I'm actually going in and using my own hand to draw everything, make it feel a little more handmade. But once we have the actual outline done, we'll go and put the actual base layer. So our light source is coming from the right to the left, so you can see there's a highlight, a shadow, a highlight, and a shadow on the blade. The bottom of the guard is a little bit darker because it's in shadow, and so is the left side where the right is more highlighted, and same with the pommel on the bottom. The right side is more highlighted and the left side is more dark. So now once we have all of our base down for the steel, we'll start working on the leather itself. This has a ribbed texture on it, so we're going to put little lines going horizontally across. Always think through where you put your lines and make them go in the direction of perspective, if nothing else, and in the direction of your texture if you really are trying to make something pop and clearly communicate what the actual material is. But for this one, now that we have our base down, we're going to go and start figuring out how to do this interesting texture on the edge of the blade. And to do this, we're going to use a nice thin gray pen. And we're going to go down and just draw by hand all of the individual lines that show these rolled and rolled and rolled pieces of steel that eventually made this beautiful pattern. So as you see, it takes a little bit of time, but this is the type of thing that starts creating depth for our sketches. It makes them look really real and very compelling. So once this is done, we're going to start going through and figuring out how to do the middle part. So it's a little bit thick, so you don't really want to use a pen. So we're going to take a nice Copic gray, and we're going to fill in the actual texture by hand throughout the middle, and then go to the sides from the right to the left. So when I do this, I kind of sit and think about how can I make this look as real as possible, and then I just kind of wing it and go from there. So you can see it's not perfect, but it's close enough. But now that we have all of our base markering down, we're going to go and start adding some depth and some darkness and some contrast. Don't be afraid to embrace black. Black is something that really works well when you use it deeply and then use lots of highlights, because it makes a lot of contrast. So since our handle is the darkest part, we're going to put black, true black, all the way on the left, and then have it fade to the lighter color to the right. And since this is leather, it's not perfect, so I'm doing a lot of stippling. I'm showing individual dots that's super dark on the left and work lighter as they go across. And now I'm taking the same contrast and putting it onto the actual pommel and guard. So I'm putting a really dark left side and having it fade to a lighter right side. And I usually like to go and put some line weight around my drawings. So this one I'm only going to put a thicker line weight on the dark side, so you can kind of call that a gravity line, and something that just makes it very easy to clean up your sketch and make it look really nice. But once we have our base down, I'm going to go and put in some details that show this metal is actually a little bit damaged and has little imperfections. So I'm taking a different gray pen and just putting little stipples, little lines, scratches, dots, and really making this thing feel like it has depth and a lot of actual character going on with it. But once you have your base, the most important thing to do is start adding the opposite of darkness, which is lightness, which goes in hand with your contrast. So I'm using a Prismacolor white Verithin pencil and a Jelly Roll Sakura little gel pen. So those two things help me get really nice highlights, and I can put those into places that are really catching it. So you can see I added a nice big highlight on the top of the pommel, doing the same on the top of the guard, and then I'm putting little highlights across each rib on the actual leather handle. So this starts showing how the darkness paired with the lightness really makes this object seem three-dimensional. And my style, I like having really nice highlights or burn marks, so I went back and added a nice little white dot, and now I'm going in and filling in between the textures some white to really show that's catching some light on that concave center of the blade itself. Now to give it a little more contrast, I'm taking a very soft pencil, so it's not a Verithin, it's a regular Prismacolor color pencil, and I'm adding a little bit of texture. This paper has texture on it, so it makes it beautiful when you actually rub lightly, and you get this nice black kind of leathery looking texture. But now I'm going to go and add some more highlights on the right to show that the light's really coming from the right to the left. Add some dark marks to really show where your light source is coming from. And then adding some stippling going along the way. That is the same thing as we move forward with that gray pen, but now it's with a white marker. And that allows us to put a lot of detail showing where the highlights and the shadows are in all those imperfections. But to make any object feel real, always sit it in space, put a little shadow down. So I pick my light source from the right to the left, so the shadow goes to the left. And I put a nice C3 gray marker down, and then right under the object, make it darker, and then use a little bit of pencil to really pop that out and make it feel like it's blending. And then conversely, I put a little bit of a subtle white line on the right side, just for a stylistic choice. That's something I like to do. But now that we have everything basically finished, I'm going through and adding extra highlights and contrast where I want it. So I added a little bit of side pencil Verithin on the right side of the object to show where the light's coming from, a little bit of black on the left side to make it seem even more poppy, and then finally, signing my name. So you can see I always keep my desk clean and organized, and it's a great way to work. Putting my sword away, but this was a quick tutorial on how you can draw 3 very unique and difficult textures just by using marker, and here it is. Looks pretty nice, very compelling and contrasting drawing, one that you can really tell what's going on, but it's still a little messy. This is one that I did pretty quickly. If I wanted to be really nice, I could go a little bit tighter and cleaner on my details, but it gets the job done. Thanks, guys.